talk about it. So, looking at the weather headlines here, what we can expect from now through Wednesday, dangerous cold is going to continue. It's not going anywhere. This air mass is here to stay thanks to high pressure to our west. And this happens every year. We get generally 3 to 6 days below zero like this with low temps. And we've had at least one of them today. Now, wind chill values 10 to 30 below. That's one thing that's a little unique with this. Very cold air generally doesn't have a whole lot of wind to it, but the gradient between high and low pressure with this system is still causing it to be quite breezy well into tonight, tomorrow, and early Wednesday morning. So that is why the wind chill is going to be so rough, but it does look better by next week. We're still going to go through into the weekend feeling pretty rough, but I do think by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, conditions do get a little bit more normal. So let's talk about this in more detail. So low temps this morning, 5 below in Milwaukee. I think Lake Michigan kept us a little bit warmer than we could have been last night. Racine, Kenosha, 9 and 11 below. So with temps like this is officially one of our coldest mornings since 2019. But I do think tomorrow morning gets even colder as even drier air settles on in. But this is dangerous cold outside, let alone with the wind, and we had quite a bit of it. But one thing, because we had all that wind, this is perfect setup for an atmospheric phenomenon. If you drive over the Hone Bridge at any point today, yesterday, or even tomorrow, you're going to see for yourself sea smoke. Now, what is sea smoke? Now, it happens more commonly in the sea, that's the name, but Duluth, Milwaukee, Chicago, some unique places where you can see it in larger populations. Now, what happens is you get warm air right above Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan air temps are way above average this time of year. And big reason why we had record warm Lake Michigan and record warm December. So that helped quite a bit. All that warm water heats that initial air right above the surface quite a bit. Now, it's still cold, but it's not exactly close to average. Now, that warm air has a lot of moisture in it because it's evaporating from Lake Michigan. That Arctic air we're seeing that's blowing southwest, northwest, well, that western component to it that's pushing east goes right over Lake Michigan, interacting with that warmer air, getting it cold. And when air cools, it condenses. And with all that moisture that we have from thanks to Lake Michigan, that lake moisture turns into sea smoke, and it just makes it kind of look like steam. A great example of this is if you're sitting in a hot tub. Same principle. The water is much warmer than the air, so it steams all around you. It doesn't feel like a hot tub out there, but it kind of looks like one, and it kind of does look cool, especially driving over the Hone. And because I live in Bayview, I've had some pretty nice views of it. Now, will we have this again tomorrow? Most likely. Until the water temp is at least close to the air temp, you're going to have smoky conditions like this. This happens from time to time, but especially pronounced when water temps are a good 50 degrees different than the air temp. And until we get ice over Lake Michigan, we could still get this into January, February, but this is very pronounced. So again, Arctic air running over that rising warm air from the lake and all that moisture. Now, if you're a good 200 miles away from it, you can get snow out of enough sea smoke. And that's how lake effect basically works in some circumstances. So Buffalo, New York, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Marquette, Michigan, all these places that do get lake effect do rely on sea smoke to some level. Now, as we look long term, will we have sea smoke forever? Probably not. Look at the wind chill forecast. Feel like temps tonight, 30 to 35 below for areas inland. I do think Lake Michigan and that warmer air it's giving us will keep at least the feel like temps in the mid-negative 20s. Tripping on myself just talking about it. So it's going to be very cold still into tonight. But the good news is we get somewhat of a heat up come Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. Feel like temps just 10 to 20 below zero. So it's improving. We're seeing the right trend here, but it's going to take a while. And here's the big reason why. I kind of mentioned this at the beginning of this forecast, why we're seeing such cold air. It's all thanks to this high pressure setup in the Great Rocky Mountains and portions of Wyoming. That's clockwise rotation around high pressure. Lows, you get counterclockwise rotation, but with clockwise rotation, this allows all this cold Canadian continental air to flow right on down through the Great Plains. Nothing in its way, no low to veer it off in a different direction. Remember that low that caused all that snow? Well, it's well off to our east now. So that temperature gradient across the United States is a thing we really need for some very cold air, and there's nothing to stop it. So this Arctic air mass is sitting right over the Great Lakes. We are seeing some of the worst of it, although it is much worse to be in the Dakotas right now. They got even stronger wind speeds, but that high pressure off to our west, big reason why it is so cold out today, into tomorrow, and also into Wednesday morning. Now, as we look ahead long term, there is hope on the horizon as we look at Sky Vision Plus tomorrow's weather today. So it's going to take some time, but we will get some better conditions once we get into Wednesday. Sunshine and overnight some cloud coverage, but breezy winds, 20 miles per hour, will not be uncommon well into Wednesday. And then Wednesday, finally, we do at least get some cloud coverage. Now, kind of interesting thing about winter, if you have cloud coverage, it doesn't exactly act like a blanket, but it absorbs and re-emits long-wave radiation. A fancy way of just saying it can at least help retain and re-emit some heat during the nighttime and evening time. So you're actually rooting for clouds in these circumstances. And finally, by Thursday, we actually get some cloud coverage, at least Thursday night to Friday morning, or we could get some flurries out of this. But I don't think it's going to give us at least much snow potential. Early Friday morning could get a little bit of light snow accumulation. That's going to actually warm us up a little bit with a quick little clipper system. And then I think by the weekend, our temps are going to be seeing highs at least into the double digits above zero. So looking like teens at least. So still cooler than average, but not as extremely below average as these last couple of days have served. Also some good news going long term, the 6 to 10 day outlook has the coldest of air pushing to the southeast, at least the biggest temperature anomaly going to the southeast. We're going to be close to average. So between the 20th and 24th, and average during this time is around 30 degrees. So we'll actually be entering our coldest time of the year on average, and we're not going to be as cold as this week was at least. So some normalcy, meaning we'll get closer and closer to that 30 degree mark by, looks like, next week. So we got a little bit of time. And what that looks like on our 6-day planner here is, well, single digits at least Tuesday, but after that, double digits for high temps. Lows will still be downright disrespectful. I do think tonight will probably be our coldest night, a good chance of at least getting to 8, 10 below for Milwaukee. Areas inland could get 15, maybe even 20 below towards Fond du Lac or maybe even central Wisconsin. It's going to be pretty far off, but this is still some very serious cold air. So one more time, we're going to just talk about what we're experiencing, and we're going to continue to experience into at least the beginning of Wednesday. We're all under a wind chill advisory until 9 a.m. What that means is wind chills 10 to 30 below will be quite common because how breezy it is outside. Dangerous cold. You only have to be outside 30 minutes without much protection to experience frostbite. We do look better by next week. We do improve quite a bit. This morning's lows, 5, 10 below zero, pretty common across the entire region. Now, this generally happens 3 to 6 times every winter in the last 30 years. So it's due. We were due, all right? One of our warmest Decembers on record. But because of that warm December, Lake Michigan stayed very warm. What happens when you get Arctic air running over a warm Lake Michigan? You get sea smoke. Today, yesterday, and tomorrow, all great days to witness this phenomenon for yourself. Lake Michigan looks like a literal hot tub, or trying to think of another good explanation for it. If you ever play around with, let's just use the hot tub example like I said earlier. So you have all this warm water, relatively speaking, and Lake Michigan warming that surface air. As that air rises, it cools and condenses thanks to that Arctic air running over it, pushing to the east. And as that happens, you get what looks like smoke. It really is just miniature clouds forming. And if you look off to the distance, it's a lot of cloud coverage. Now, typically, if you get lake effect snow, it's really the sea smoke phenomenon that's adding all that extra moisture to the air. And you get massive snow totals. That's how Buffalo gets 2 4-foot snows quite regularly with Arctic blasts. You need long extended periods of air that's really cold exposed to Lake Michigan, basically the Great Lakes in general, open bodies of water that are warmer than the surrounding air. And that's what we got. So sea smoke, that's what's happening. Not exactly lake effect snow, but areas in Michigan are seeing lake effect snow as we speak, thanks to our sea smoke. So they're stealing all our moisture. Have that, Lions fans, and congrats for your first playoff win in my lifetime. But look at Sky Vision Plus for our feel like temp forecast. Tomorrow morning is going to probably be the coldest morning of this whole spell. 25 to 35 below zero wind chill values. It's going to be rough outside. It does get better though. Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, it'll still be dangerous. 10 to 20 degree below zero wind chill values, but it's not as bad, again, as 20 to 30. But really, how can you notice? Unless you're a walking thermometer, you're not going to be able to tell. So it's going to be very cold into Wednesday. And we do get some improvements by the end of the week. It does get a little bit better. The whole reason this is happening is high pressure to our west that's allowing all this cold Canadian air. Thanks a lot, Edmonton. I've never been, but I've heard Edmonton's a pretty hardy place. Not much going on there in terms of tree coverage to protect them from this cold. They got oil, but that's about it. And they got cold air, and they're giving it to us here. So we'll be seeing cold air at least for the next couple of days still, but the long-term trend is still looking good, all right? Be optimistic. There's something to look forward to, as it does look like near normal conditions once we get into that final week and a half of January. So that's when we typically enter our coldest time of the year. This year came a little earlier, but I do expect more normal conditions, meaning highs near 30, more likely by the end of next week. So putting it all together for that 6th day. Yes, very dangerous cold tonight, tomorrow, into Wednesday early morning. Just be cautious as well. Have a plan to warm up if you are going outside for extended periods of time. Have that hat and glove in your car just in case. And then as we get into next week, Sunday, Saturday, 20s. It's going to feel oh so good. Maybe get 30s by Monday, Tuesday. We will see. All more updates as that goes on. But I really do appreciate everyone joining us here on Fox Local. I know this is kind of short notice, but we didn't want to cut into the Marquette game. I know there's a lot of people caring about that right now. It is, oh, okay, Villanova just took the lead, but it's still early. All right, still early. We'll be doing these Fox Locals more frequently likely for weather events like this. I hope you enjoyed the more in-depth explanation. We don't need anchors to kind of bog things down, but again, we do appreciate everyone joining us here on this quick Fox Local cut-in. But for now, I'll see you later. Hope we're good. All right.